Alrighty, like usual, after I finish the book, here's a video with some afterthoughts, what I learned while doing this reading, and also what went through my mind while doing the reading. And before I start, let me say that I always love to read your thoughts, right? Your thoughts on the book itself, your thoughts on the chapter that I just read or you just listened to, no matter if it's an old chapter that I posted months ago or a recent one. And of course, also your thoughts on videos like these, right? What I say in these videos. So please don't hesitate to put your thoughts in the comments and share them. I love to interact with you. So, with that having said, what did you think about Around the World in 80 Days? Did you like the book? Was it what you expected it to be, in case you haven't read the book before or didn't listen to an audiobook version before? Or did you already read the book before or listen to an audiobook version before? Or did you watch any of the numerous movies? There are quite a couple of movies or TV series. There's even a cartoon version or more than one cartoon version out there. Did you watch any of those? So yeah, let me know in the comments. I can wholeheartedly say that Around the World in 80 Days gave me exactly what I expected, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading this book. And what did it give to me? Right? It gave me distraction from the real world, right? And fun. It's a fun book and a fun adventure. Is this book high literature? Probably not, no. but it doesn't have to be, right? There's something that about escapism or escapism, right? When we dive into a book, and I think, and I read it somewhere, and for the life of me, I can't remember where I read it, but this one sentence kind of stuck in my head. I think also, like the person who originally wrote it down, that it was an essay, I think, that it is a whole different thing whether we want to escape from a place or escape to a place. And escaping to a place, like a book, right, or a movie or a video game or whatever, is always it's a good thing to have a break from real life, to be able to breathe a bit, to get energized, and then dive back into the real world. While escaping from a place, not so much, right? The thing about Around the World in 80 Days is why I don't think that this could be called high literature, right? There are no hidden meanings in the book, right? There's no contemplation on life or death. There are no allegories. There's no social criticism or comments. There are no comments on social issues of any sort, except maybe that human sacrifice is a no-no, right? And no, seriously, it is a no-no. Don't do it. It's bad manners. Don't do that. Right? Yeah. What I found that, and this is just an observation, right? It's no criticism from my side. When I think about the characters in the book, there's no real in-depth character study of some sort. At least I didn't see any. Maybe you think differently. If you think differently, or if you agree, then please let me know, right? Sure, the characters in the book are quite defined. They're sculpted, right? And in parts even exaggerated to a cartoonish, almost cartoonish level, right? Phileas Fogg isn't just calm, right? He is the literally calmest person on the planet, right? Nothing can discomfort him or make him lose his cool. And also the characters all of them or none of them, right, really change over the course of the book. There's no classic character development in the book. And that's even stated in the book itself, right? When it says that the Phileas Fogg who came back from the trip is the same who started the trip. So, and that is true for Phileas Fogg, and goes, of course, also for Passepartout and all the others, right? The whole book, to me, seemed more like how do specific characters deal with changing circumstances rather than how do circumstances change specific characters. So yes, we do have a bit of more or less historically correct information on trade during that time, right? On ports, on trading companies, on travel, of course, right? How did people travel back then? We have quite a lot of information on the US-American railway system of that time, the evolving US-American railway system. And that was, for me, indeed very interesting to read. I love these vivid descriptions and these explanations. So I had a bit of the feeling that I get a glimpse into this time. And that is what I enjoyed tremendously, other than the cool story. I loved the story. So what sort of stood out to me, though, was this whole chapter about Mormons and Mormonism. And it probably wouldn't even have really attracted my attention other than being information to flesh out the story if it weren't for a study in Scarlet, right? The first Sherlock Holmes novel that I also read. It's on this channel as well, which a book written by Arthur Conan Doyle. And if you know the novel, if you read it, or if you listened to my reading of it, then you know that this book is divided into two parts. And the second part of that novel almost exclusively deals with Mormons and Mormonism. So since these books were written in sort of a similar time frame, right? Both at the end of the 19th century, Around the World was published, I think, in the 1870s, and A Study in Scarlet, I think it was published at the end of the 1890s, I think. So sort of roughly the same time frame. So, and that was a time when apparently this religious group of the Mormons was quite a phenomenon, right? And this time specifically, hit the microphone, shouldn't do that. This time specifically, right, the end of the 19th century, was a time when many religious and pseudo-religious groups formed, some of them still around today, and when the Western civilization became increasingly interested in mysticism, religion, right, and also the occult. And since I mentioned A Study in Scarlet, Arthur Conan Doyle, the author, who was not only an author but also a medical doctor, was also very well known for his interest and fascination, almost obsession, with the occult, and who was very much into spiritualism and was an ardent believer in the supernatural. While and this is really an interesting story, his BFF, right? He was BFF with another very, very famous figure of that time, the master magician, illusionist, right? Harry Houdini. And his BFF, Harry Houdini, was quite the opposite of Arthur Conan Doyle, because Harry Houdini was even sort of kind of what we would call today a myth buster, of his time, right? And when he started to denounce fraudulent mediums and mysticists, etc., 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 especially those who Conan Doyle believed to be genuine, right? The friendship between these two guys broke up. And this is really a fascinating story that I might dig in a bit deeper in a specific video one day. Some of you might know, who know me a bit better, that I'm a huge Buster Keaton fan, and the silent movie comic who knew Harry Houdini very well. And Harry Houdini was even the person who gave Buster Keaton the name Buster, right? Funny story in Buster Keaton's autobiography, which is, by the way, a fascinating book. So, yeah. Where was I? Let me check my notes. I always glimpse on my notes here. Yeah, during this time period when mysticism and the occult and religions and spiritualism and spiritism and all of that sort was on the rise, I have a bit the feeling that this was the reason for this rise was to a big degree that it was sort of a counter movement to a more and more industrial world, right? A world that seemingly got smaller and smaller. And I mean, around the world in 80 days, the name says it, it was suddenly possible to travel around the world, around the globe in 80 days. At least that is what the book proved, right? And that was something that was unthinkable before. Or when we think about another book that Jules Verne wrote, From the Earth to the Moon, right, for example, right, which shows the possibility to even escape the boundaries of this planet and visit the moon. And this book is quite scientific, right? So back then, suddenly, not even the sky was the limit anymore. So we do see kind of, and this is my personal view on this, we see similar things happening today, right? The world gets more and more and more scientific and technological, and thanks to the internet, the world seems to shrink even more, right? Traveling to the other side of the planet is not a matter of days or weeks or months now, but a matter of hours, basically, right? So then the communication, right? We can communicate in real time with people on the different side of the planet with where's my cell phone, right? With things like that, right? I can call friends on the other side of the planet and I can talk with them whenever I want to. Amazing, right? Everything seems to be easily explained, right? And all the wonders and miracles of the world that the world seemed to hold only a couple of centuries ago, or even only a couple of decades ago, right? Seem to have vanished and seem to be just explainable by science. And still, we seem helpless, right? If something tiny little, like a virus, suddenly hits us and brings the world and daily life to a halt. So to an extent, I do understand why even today these counter movements of a let me call it a new mysticism, right? That they surface. It's interesting, right? It's also very scary, but it's also interesting. I mean, sure, we have to be cautious where we're heading towards, and I am of the strong opinion that not everything that our scientific advances allow us to do are always and in every case a good thing to do, right? Some borders, in my personal opinion, Some borders should not be crossed. But this blatant and super aggressive anti-intellectualism and these anti-science groups rising and gaining momentum and power at the moment, that is at least as dangerous, if not more. But yeah, despite all the danger, it is nevertheless interesting to observe. And I stumbled over a super interesting quote by an author that I, for me, discovered very, very recently. I'm talking about Isaac Asimov, who once said, "There's a cult of ignorance in the United States, and there has always been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge." And nothing could be closer to truth, right, at the moment than this. And it's not, of course, not only in the US, but all around the world. Since I mentioned From the Earth to the Moon, as you might know if you have been following along for a while on this channel, or if you checked the descriptions of the videos or looked at the playlists on my channel, this is the one novel by Jules Verne that I already read on this channel. I found From the Earth to the Moon to be more directly like a social commentary, or maybe even a satire, right, on social life during that time, especially, of course, on the, let me call it, obsession with guns and wars that at least some US Americans back then had, and, well, some probably still have till this day, right? And that was a big part of this book, and that was even to an extent the base, or the basic idea of this book. And what I loved, though, was that it was always, even when in certain parts it was pretty direct, right? The satire was pretty direct. Like when we think about, if you read the book or listened to my reading of it, there's a scene when the gun club, when Jules Verne described how many limbs and how many eyes and how many noses were missing, and he was talking about gutta percha craniums and etc. When the gun club, during the gathering of the gun club. So yeah, pretty dark humor, right? Black humor, but always still quite tongue-in-cheek and good humor, never insulting or malicious, and at least I didn't find it in any way scathing. So this is the sort of humor that I personally like, that is pointing the finger at something, right? Making fun of it, but not in a malicious way. So yeah, but back to Around the World. The fascinating bit for me was how much, despite all the obstacles and all the perils that were thrown in the way of our little group, that I, as a reader, trusted Phileas Fogg, right? And that just because he seemed to not be in the least concerned, right? I always thought, how will they get out of this, right? But then I thought, well, Phileas Fogg will do it. He will have a plan, right? And he did. And it's amazing to me what effect sheer confidence can have on others. And this is when we look around us and see there are people who are just plain confident. And we tend to trust them, no matter if they have proof that their confidence is justified, right? The one thing is, and this is what I'm really interested in, how did you feel about the mutiny scene, though, right? This mutiny scene, that kind of really took me by surprise. And I'm not sure whether this kind of wasn't even a character break for me, right? I didn't expect Phileas Fogg to go that far. but maybe it was the character development that I said in the beginning of this video, that is missing in the book, or that didn't happen in the book. I didn't even find it missing. It's just, well, it's a different way of approaching a story, right? So we changed the circumstances and watch how our not changing characters react to that. And instead of how do the characters change according to the circumstances. So, yeah, whatever it was, it made things surprising and therefore exciting. But I wanna hear or read your opinion. How did you feel about this scene? I was almost shocked to read that. Yeah, to sum it up, I mentioned it in the beginning, enjoyed reading this book, and I can't wait to read yet another Jules Verne novel for this project. So yes, expect more from this wonderful author in the coming months. There are quite a couple of Jules Verne novels that I want to read. One in particular that I have in mind that I will read certainly as one of the next books. But there are other books as well. So, and especially there will be a next book. But before I talk about which book will be next, I want to address something that I wanted to address for quite some weeks now, but I waited for this video. I didn't want to throw in yet another non-reading video. I'm talking about the missing audiobook, of course, right? Or, well, how I failed to deliver, right? How I failed to make a promised audiobook. I promised a full-length audio-only audiobook, so different than these readings where I just sit down and read, but really audio-only for your podcatcher to download or listen on the computer, wherever, right? As a Christmas gift, right? And also sort of as a thank you for, because I mentioned it some months ago, as soon as this channel hits the 50 subscribers, I want to give you something as my token of gratitude. So right now Christmas is over for already some time. This channel even surpassed the 70 subscribers. I'm thrilled, right? And there's still no audiobook. Why? The answer is simple. I underestimated the work. It's embarrassing, I have to admit that, and I'm really truly sorry, but I cannot say it differently, right? I did record the whole book. I'm talking about A Christmas Carol, which is a cool Christmas gift, I guess, right? And but apparently too late, right? I thought I'll just sit down, record, edit out all of the slips of the tongue, and do some sound sweetening, maybe even some sound effects. There are ghosts in the book, right? So I thought do something with the voice and stuff like that. And so doing basically everything that I can do with these daily readings, right? So doing really some as perfect as I am able to do something like that, right? And because these videos here, also this one, right, is straight out of the camera. I sit down and I read, or like now I talk, and I take out the memory card out of, and I have to check how long I'm already 23 minutes. Wow. Take out the card of the camera and I'll upload it to YouTube. So the thing is, sitting down, knowing that I can and that I will edit the audio later, led to me doing passages over and over and over and over and over again until I was satisfied with the results. So I had, in the end, raw material of about 6 hours. And 6 hours raw material is not just sitting down and read and listening to 6 hours, but editing that takes at least double or triple the time. So I started editing after work. I work in the evenings, so it was always late at night, and that dragged on. It took so much longer than I thought. And then shortly before the holidays, I got sick, right? I caught a really, really bad cold, which took weeks to get rid of. and that made it impossible for me to finish this. And I even had to stop doing the readings for these daily readings for a couple of days because it was simply not possible for me to do that. Physically not possible. So then Christmas was over and a Christmas reading was kind of obsolete. The whole thing was kind of obsolete. Publishing a Christmas carol after Christmas is stupid. So fact is, I will publish it one day, right? There will be a next Christmas. If things don't go really horribly wrong, then there will be another Christmas. And there also will be something very, very special as a thank you and also to spice up this channel a bit. It is in the making, and I think it will make up for this missed opportunity. But, well, I have become cautious with promises now, so I cannot say, or I don't want to say when this surprise will be published. All I can say that it will be both. It will be on this channel and it will be an audio only thing for your podcatchers. So there's that. So, okay. With that all having said, what will the next book be? The next book after Around the World in 80 Days? It will be a Mark Twain book again. This time, a time travel story, a very special time travel story titled A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. Suggested to me by my good friend Sharon, who's a wonderful photographer. So the link to her blog is in the description. Check out her blog, check out her photos. Amazing photography. And she's also an avid book lover. And so, yeah. And she suggested this book quite a time ago. And I started to sit down to read this book, record this book today. And I don't know, tomorrow will be Moby Dick at the time of recording this, next week. I don't know yet if I can already publish the first chapter of A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court on Saturday. Because the introduction, there's a preface and all of that, I have to still figure out how to put that all together because the first chapter, I found different sources, whatever. So you will see it will start in the next days. So there's that. I haven't read the book, of course, right? Like none of the books that I read on this channel so far. I just started reading it and I found that it might be, I have to find a way how to start this book. So with that all having said, I can guarantee that A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, from what I read so far, is a hilarious book. A wonderful book. So far, the 2 chapters that I read already and recorded already, I have to do this. That's what I do since I started Moby Dick, to get sure that is something that I can read. Moby Dick is tough. Oh my God. So yeah, with all that having said, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, and you're interested in what I do here, subscribe to this channel. And yeah, bye-bye till next time.